All right, let's see if I remember how to do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to All Things Star Wars, the greatest Star Wars podcast in the galaxy. I'm Mr. Jason Roscom. With me here each and every single week, the Darth Vader to my Palpatine, Dave Martin. Hello, Dave.
Hello, Jason.
How's it going?
It's going well now that we've got this finally set up and we're in your new environment. Welcome to the fireside chat with Jason Roscom.
Yes, we were working with the lighting for quite a while before we started, so this is the best we came up with. We'll get into it, don't worry. But in the meantime, what are we talking about this week for episode 70 of the podcast?
Episode 70. Holy shit.
Yeah.
We are talking about Rebels season 3.
Yes.
Finally.
Yes.
We've
been talking about it forever, so it's about time we finally got to it.
And I have to tell you that I'm pretty excited because it's been I had to physically stop watching it so that I didn't get too far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, legitimately had to be like, all right, I'm not watching any more of this. I'm going to watch Rick and Morty, until we tape the podcast and I can watch the rest of it.
Yeah, so we will get into the finer details a little bit later on in the show, but we've got a few other things that we want to get to first. So I noticed you have one note right in the beginning here. You want to go ahead and hop into that?
Yeah, I just wanted to pay our respects to a fellow veteran and American hero. Rest in peace, Senator John McCain, who passed away last night. I actually happened to have the TV on in the background when they announced his passing. So it's a shame, and I know they posted the memorial services schedule and all that stuff. So that'll be pretty sombering, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot about it on the news. Upcoming.
I'm pretty sure he's going to get the full star treatment too, kind of like what they do with former presidents when they pass.
Well, he's going to lie in state in Arizona first, and then he's going to lie in state in the Capitol building. And then they'll have the service at the National Cathedral, and they didn't get into any details of where he's actually going to be buried. I mean, obviously, being a POW and his status in the war, he's entitled to full honors at Arlington. But I don't know if that's where he's going to be. But fair's
Yeah, we could talk a long time about the life of John McCain because he saw a lot of shit in his day. Yeah,
and to aircrew guys like us who went through survival school and kind of they impress upon you, like for those who are listening that didn't know that John McCain was a POW. Shame on your upbringing and that you haven't learned this in U.S. history, but he was a POW in Vietnam. He was one of the premier centerpieces of the Vietnamese government at the time for, holding captive and using him as a pawn and torturing him, and doing all these things. And one of the things we talked so much about it in survival school is because of, one of the things that happened to him while he was captive. He was captive for almost 5 years or over 5 years. And he at one point broke in captivity, and he thought that he had so dishonored his country by breaking after all this torture and everything else, that he so dishonored his country that he attempted suicide.
Yeah.
And something that they taught us in survival school is that, everyone has their breaking point, and you do your best and use this as the example. You do the absolute best that you can, but if you do break, remember that your job is to get back. It's not, there's only so much you can do. There's only so much expectation of what you're able to resist.
Yeah.
And that was, again, John McCain being the poster child of, surviving in some of the worst conditions possible.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think, for us, for Jason and I, especially because we've been through aircrew survival school, and it's just, you hear his name a lot. He's obviously a prominent figure in our adulthood and going through our years and our decades in the military. He's always been a strong voice for us. So I just I wanted to make sure that we our respects.
Absolutely. So, since it's been a while since we've recorded, we've missed a couple of things. The biggest thing probably being the Resistance trailer. So, they finally released a trailer with some actual footage from the new Resistance show that's coming out in the fall, I think, right? Pretty soon?
I
Maybe?
believe they did say it was October.
Yeah, so probably should have done my due diligence and actually, had that information handy before we started talking about it, but fuck it, whatever. It's this is how we roll.
You were in charge of the notes. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So,
Put that out there.
So yeah, we're a little late to the punch on this, but I still want to get our thoughts on this out there because I think it's important. And I don't know if you have any initial thoughts, Dave, but I honestly didn't hate it. I know there's a lot of people out there online that are like, "Fuck this! This animation style sucks. This fucking Resistance show's gonna suck." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, I think we talked about it offline. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Excuse me. Hit the dump button on that one.
There is no dump button.
Oh, it's Star Wars Resistance is going to be on a Disney Channel October 7th.
Okay.
And then later debut on Disney XD in the United States. So October 7th.
I'll still be here. God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway,
well, give us something to talk about.
Yeah.
So my impression was I did not hate it. And I wanted to remember it, I think it had a little bit more kid-like feel to it.
Yes, of course. It's not Disney XD, that is probably its target audience first and foremost.
And to be perfectly honest with you, with the Clone Wars, even to the point we've gotten in Clone Wars and even with Rebels, where the same things were said, this animation style is not good. It doesn't represent the Star Wars very well. And then when everyone got used to Clone Wars and then when they went to a different animation style in Rebels, people were like, "Oh my God, this is the worst thing ever." So it's the same thing. It's different. People don't like things that are different. So I'm again in my new being of my lowered expectations for things that are Star Wars. I'm excited to see it, and I'm going to give it all the rope it can stand. Now, if it's going to be a little bit too childish for me, then I'm probably not going to watch it.
Right.
But kind of like reading a young adult novel, that comes out in Star Wars, there may be good content, but it's not necessarily like, I feel a little creepy doing it.
Yeah, because we're not the target audience again.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I wasn't upset by it at all. I there's some interesting stuff. There's some interesting tie-ins where we're seeing Poe doing different things, and obviously BB-8 is going to be super involved in it.
Yeah. Now, specifically that animation style, what did you think of that?
I liked it. It wasn't as people were initially saying it was going to be really like anime style.
Right.
And I didn't get that at all. I think I posted it in the group where it almost reminded me of the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
If you remember that movie, The Iron Giant, brighten, open the exposure up a little bit more on the Iron Giant movie. And then this is, the way the faces are drawn and kind of, not so much with the ships and stuff like that, because you don't really see stuff like that in Iron Giant, except for a couple of helicopters flying around or whatever. But that's what it reminded me of. So it didn't remind me of anime. It just reminded me of just a different animation style.
Yeah. So. No, I thought it looked great. Visual wise, I thought it looked phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to this animation style.
It's very, very bright. Like watching it based on the trailer, it's like very, very bright. Whereas Clone Wars and Rebels, there's almost like a darkness to it. Yeah. I don't know if that's me looking too far into it. But
no, I think that's intentional. I think it's intentional. I think it's part of the mood of those eras in the Star Wars universe.
So, yeah, well, so I'll be tuning in somehow. I don't know, because I don't have real cable, so I'll piece together some sort of way to watch it.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat though I've never actually turned on the TV here. I would imagine we have a full suite of channels here in the.
You're probably going to have the Disney Channel on that thing.
Yeah.
You might be able to watch it live.
Yeah. So we'll figure it out one way or the other, and we will talk about it after it airs on the show.
We'll live stream Jason watching it so that I can watch it at the same time. And we won't have any copyright infringements whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be my question.
I don't think we can do that.
So moving on, you had another note in here about some sort of Battlefront 2 controversy. I have not been plugged into the Battlefront 2 scene at all since basically since I left for Mississippi. And now even when I'm in Texas, I haven't really been following it.
So, all right. My insomnia has driven me to a point where now I'm reading, I'm following a bunch of Star Wars threads on Reddit.
Oh boy. That might be your first mistake right there.
Yeah. Well, I deliberately avoid.
You did introduce a very nice Star Wars related Reddit thread to me
yes,
recently.
I did.
So,
yes. And you are welcome.
If we have time later, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, you are welcome, sir. Yes, we should talk about that more later. So anyway, I was just going through there's a Star Wars Battlefront subreddit, and or subthread or however they call it. I'm not down with the lingo.
I think they're called subreddits.
Yeah. So I was reading through some of this stuff in Battlefront 2. Apparently there was a community release image that had what people had, basically it was this clone trooper skins that you're going to be able to do. And there was a battle droid or a droideka.
The destroyers, the guys with the shields.
Yeah, exactly. There was an image, allegedly, an image of one in the picture, which made people go crazy because I think the intention was, and I could be way off from this. This is like me. This news is a little bit old, and I'm reading it at 1 a.m. But the impression I got was that people thought that this was going to be an available skin. You'd be able to fight as a battle droid. And currently right now, even if you're in like certain Clone Wars era stuff, like even if you're in Amidala's castle or the palace or whatever, you can function as battle droids, or you can be the super battle droids.
Yeah, the big guys.
With
the gun arm.
Yeah, it turns over. Yeah. That guy, I should know these fucking names. My brain hurts so bad. We'll get into that later. But yeah, so the destroyer droid or a droideka, like everyone was like really excited about that. And then there was via Twitter, people were posting about it, and then basically EA Dice and this Ben Walsh guy, I think that's his name, were basically going like, no, that's not what you think it is. It's a crash speeder. It's what the hell did they call it? It was like some subterranean clutter or some bullshit like that. They had some bullshit excuse. And then they sent another message out later kind of going like, or is it? Like, and it was just like this huge cock tease with like whether or not this thing. And basically I guess there are, there's people out there that defend Battlefront 2, and they kind of, they're really pushing for EA and Dice and everyone to make a better product, with their live community. That's what they're been promising. And it still hasn't materialized. August 29th, which is a few days from now, they're supposed to release the stuff with the clone skin. Right. And that's what the credits and everything are for now. Like, you can use those credits. Like, initially when the Battlefront 2 controversy would start, it was like, you can buy all of the high-tech shit and just buy yourself into the best possible trooper, and dominate. And they're like, oh no, fuck, we can't. There was the whole uproar, and we talked a lot about that. So now what you do is you take those credits and you can buy different skins for your trooper, shit like that. Okay. So it caused this big controversy, and there was a lot of why I think it's important to talk about is, for one, I think these are the death throes of EA Dice having the hold on the Star Wars franchise as far as video. If I was analyzing this and looking at like how the fan reaction is, and even the diehard people that are playing the game right now that go, look, you can't keep doing this stuff. Yeah. And you look at the Twitter feeds and you're like, we can't like one of them was, it was again this prominent Twitter handle. It was like Battlefront videos or whatever, and basically it's like, look, we can't make this look better for you, you know. And then it tagged like that Ben Walsh guy in EA Dice, and this guy came back with like, well, we never asked you to,
Wow.
type thing. And it's like, that's, you know, Ben Walsh has some sort of like like a content editor or something for this thing. And again, my facts are probably way off. So
Yeah, no, I saw that tweet that you were talking about too.
yeah, we're not here for facts, people. We're here for generalizations.
Yes.
So, but like I said, my big takeaway was like, what is EA going to be able to do to get the fan base back into this game? And by stringing along the people that are playing it right now and taking the diehards that like are just have been waiting and waiting and waiting, is like, okay, you're telling us you're going to do this live, you know, you're going to have the live community, the, you know, you're going to tease us with imagery and shit like that, and you don't come through, you make us wait, you know, upteenth long amount of time. You're not putting the fan first. You're just letting the product hang out there. And I just feel like if I were Lucas, you know, or LucasArts, I'd be okay. Who's going to be able to handle our next game? Because you know, maybe it goes to Ubisoft, maybe it goes to. I think there was some rumors out there before flying around about that. Yeah. About another game, platform game being produced. So, you know, I just, it's a shame. I haven't had time to play Battlefront, so I can probably, last time I logged into it was maybe 2 weeks ago, when I had like a spare 15 minutes and I just didn't feel like thinking about schoolwork anymore. But I can tell you right now, it wasn't fun, and I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah, and you know what? I honestly think this is a symptom of a bigger problem, where I think all of these companies, not just like the video game companies, but like who's it, Hasbro, who has the toy line, and anybody else who's gotten any kind of Star Wars licensing. Back in the day, it was you could just throw Star Wars on fucking any old turd and people would throw their money at it. Well, that's not really the case anymore, because now there's so much Star Wars shit out there. It's fucking everywhere. And you can't just slap the Star Wars logo on something and expect people to buy it in droves, because now you see all kinds of Star Wars shit on fucking clearance racks everywhere. Yeah. With a few exceptions.
Yeah, I agree with you to an extent, but with the video games, I think that there's a higher expectation there. I think.
Well, sure, because you're plunking down more money, honestly.
It's more money, and it's more of an interactive experience. Like if you go buy a toy, if you're a kid and you go to buy the toy, or you buy the Lego set, you're essentially relying on your imagination and everything else. Once you build the kit, how you play with the toy is on you. The video game experience is so immersive that if you fuck that up, then you're screwed. You're not going to play the game. And you're certainly not going to spend any more money on updates or anything else like that. And quite frankly, if they came out with a Battlefront 3 that was produced by EA Dice, it'd have to come with hand jobs, I think, for people to buy it. I just don't think that. I really believe that just by watching and following some of this, and you know, like Jason had mentioned too, when we were going back and forth about it, that sometimes this, you know, can be a little bit of that internet negativity. But looking at some of the people who are talking about it that are you know, have been pro Battlefront 2, you know, obviously in multiple threads and what they've been posting, and like, you know, pushing stuff out and being very pro the game, and to turn around and be like, and feel like that they got kicked in the dick. It's now you really have to start thinking about like, all right, what is going to happen? What's going to happen next? Because Christmas season's right around the corner.
That's true.
Right now there's nothing in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to have a new Star Wars game to drop before Christmas starts. No. So they're going to have to like hope for some big like Game of the Year edition or some bullshit that's going to come with like all the DLC. You know, that's the only thing that they can push out there for the holiday season. That's going to net them any sales.
And I don't think they can write the code fast enough right now to really make that happen. They'd have to be teasing the shit out of it. I mean, I know it's late August, but unfortunately, people are already thinking about what their Halloween costumes are going to be. And then before Halloween has even happened, we're going to see Christmas shit on the shelves. So, I don't know. Anyway, as far as the Battlefront 2 thing, we've only got we're back to our 90-minute window for.
Yeah.
We got a lot of Rebel shit to talk about, but I definitely wanted to touch on that a little bit because some people have probably seen it. Yep. Yeah, I know Bronco Fett, man, that fucking tank top. I don't even want to get into it. We don't have time.
Yeah. Oh, and I love the somebody was throwing out carrots, potatoes, and water right from the start as well.
And water. Yeah. Yep. Yes. I liked my wife's comment about the ranch dressing though, since you're in Texas.
That was pretty funny. So anyway, moving on, we got a day in Star Wars that I wanted to hop onto really quick, and that is today, August 26th, and this is back in 1997, so 21 years ago, right? Math. And that is Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox Home Video release the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition on VHS. So this was the first time that the special editions hit VHS. And I wanted to bring this up because I specifically remember everything about this. I remember when they announced when they were coming out, I went to the fucking mall. What was the old video store in the mall that used to sell like VHSs back in the day? Not Sam Goody, but the one that was specific for movies. God damn it. You know what I'm talking about, right? Suncoast. Was it Suncoast Video? Is that the one?
Sure.
Anyway, I went to the one at the Burlington Mall and I pre-ordered the Star Wars Trilogy Special Edition on VHS and this was right after I got to New Jersey too. So I bummed a ride that week, and I went and I picked up my brand new Star Wars Trilogy Special Editions on VHS, not realizing that this was the beginning of the end for the original cuts of of the original trilogy. But I just figured I'd bring that up. I don't know if you have any stories about buying the special editions on home video.
No, I had what was that?
What the fuck was that?
I don't know. My phone doing weird shit. No, I got nothing. Let's move on.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's move right into our weeks before we actually get into the Rebel Season 3. We will get to it. And I'm always curious, like if any new people listen to the show, because our numbers keep going up and up every week, by the way. And I'm wondering if they're listening to the show and they're like, when the fuck are these guys going to talk about what's actually in the goddamn title of the fucking podcast?
And well, at least, I'm going to ramble on. I rambled on about Star Wars related shit.
Yeah. So yeah, word of warning, the next few minutes is going to be non-Star Wars related. Sorry. It's just this is how we roll. So for me, yeah, obviously I'm down here in Texas now. My surroundings are different. For those of you who've been watching us on YouTube this whole time, Scott, Bronco Fett, everybody else. Hello, Joel Springs. And Mark Somerville, he's in also. So yeah, my surroundings have changed because I'm now in San Antonio, Texas. I've been here for 2.5 weeks now, I think. I don't even fucking remember. It's all starting to blur together. It's been a rough adjusting period for me down here. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I had that break at home and then got torn away again and put down here for another fucking 3 months. It's been rough. I don't know why. I've been in a weird emotional state this whole time, and you and I have had offline conversations about this, but I don't know. It's a lot different than Mississippi. I'm not in any kind of a routine. I'll sit around just like fucking doing nothing, just being either bored or lonely or sad, and I don't know. I feel like I have to change something down here because it's not going well right from the start.
Well, in fairness, I know we did. You alluded to it. We did talk about some stuff offline, and I think a big part of it was, you're not able to go downstairs and have a short walk to go work out, which was a big part of your routine before. Yeah. Just having the routine is, or not having it is a big part of it. And you had transportation issues when you got down there. It's hot as fuck. If anybody who's been in San Antonio this time of year knows it's fucking hot.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just gonna a little bit longer adjustment period, but I think this is a perfect time for when you're not studying, because I know it's been a fucking ball buster for these courses that you've been in. Jason's been calm out for like a couple of days, and I know that he's been, in a locked up late studying for this course. So I know it's been a ball buster, and yeah, it's just about getting into a routine. And when you have that downtime, we've got Clone Wars and Rebels to watch, and
oh yeah,
hopefully you've downloaded the Old Republic onto your new laptop, and you can get some of that playing. Which God, man, that took fucking forever to update.
Did yours finally finish?
Yeah, finally. It took like half the day.
Oh yeah, those things are like 50 gig downloads. So if you're just downloading it straight. But in addition to my troubled adjustment, I have been able to cope a little bit, and that is with all of the fucking Mexican food down here. Holy shit. I forgot how good the Mexican food was down here in Texas, because growing up in Southern California, grew up around some great fucking Mexican food. Always loved it. It's my favorite kind of ethnic food, I guess, if you want to say. And, being out in the Northeast for about my first 15 years up in Jersey, we didn't have good Mexican food. And I don't even want to hear any bullshit you try to defend New Jersey Mexican food, because up until a few years ago, it was all garbage. And
I have nothing to defend.
Yeah. So being born and raised in Southern California, then moving to New Jersey for over a decade, getting shit Mexican food. It's been nice being down here because everything is fucking amazing. These little mom and pop restaurants around the corner, these fucking taco trucks down the street. And then there's this one big, nice, fancy Mexican restaurant that like the whole fucking city of San Antonio goes to. This place is massive. And it's got like the parking lot is like a fucking stadium parking lot. But that food was like the best Mexican food I've ever had in my life. And I'm just like, heaven. So I've been drowning my sorrows in some of the best Mexican food you could possibly imagine.
With or without a cerveza?
Without. No alcohol since I've been here. That's one thing. Yeah, because trust me, with all the shit that I've been going through, it's been very tempting to just go down to the fucking shopette and pick up a 6-pack or 10 and keep them in my fridge. But I've avoided that. I'm like, that's just going to lead to only bad things. So I haven't touched alcohol since I've been here, and that's the plan while I'm here.
That's a good call. Did you ever, sidebar for Mexican food, did you ever go to that place in Greenville that was like, it was like in somebody's, it was like somebody's kitchen, like it was in somebody's home, like attached to the back of their house?
You've told me about that place, but no, I never went myself.
That was fucking good ass Mexican food. Probably the best I've had outside of Albuquerque, honestly. Anyway.
Well, honestly, I don't think it gets any better than San Antonio. I couldn't imagine it being any better than this, but whatever.
That's good.
So at least I have that to enjoy while I'm here. But that's really been my week. Other than that, it's been, like you said, some hardcore fucking classwork. It has been a nonstop ball-busting grind. Got a little bit of a break this last week, and I've got a 4-day weekend coming up, so more free time. But yeah, it's just been a pain. But that's me. That's been my week. So I will pass the mic to you now.
Well, hang on. I'm responding. I love this idea that Bronco Fed just put in the chat. Take a look at it.
Oh God. What, rejoicing for football season? Oh my God.
No. I'm going to get to that in a second.
Burning my shirt? Oh no, wait, that was Scott.
Also, yes. I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want somebody to steal it.
All right, and this is the first time Joel is watching us on YouTube. He normally just listens to the audio. Well, thank you, Joel.
Yeah. Hopefully you're subscribed.
Yes.
And we'll appreciate any reviews that you can give us. So my week in Star Wars has consisted of school, and more school. Like it has been, I started another semester since we last recorded, and it's online school, and I've bitched about it before, and I'll continue to bitch about it. It's just, there's a lot of busy work. And this week I chose to, go on a nice day trip with my wife, and we went out to Jim Thorpe, PA, which is an amazing little town. The little train rides, saw some amazing scenery. Really, really great day. But just been busy doing. There's just been something going on all week this week. So any spare moment I've had, I've been, doing schoolwork. writing extraneous papers and essays and outlines and peer reviews and fucking bullshit. um, and then this weekend, I just finished today my the course for me to become a substitute teacher. So I think since we've last taped, honestly, I don't think we've talked about it, but I had a job opportunity pop up to work back on the base that is awaiting a contract. So everyone knock on wood for me. Hopefully that contract goes through.
It's too good.
So if that happens, then awesome. Then I've already gotten, signed my offer letter and all other stuff. Good stuff. It's just waiting for the contract stuff to work out. If that doesn't happen, then I figured I'd go and do some substitute teaching. Once my degree is finished, maybe turn that into, a teaching career, maybe go more at a trade school. I don't know how I do at normal school, but like I'd love to go teach like basic electronics at a trade school or something like that. I think it'd be something I'm really good at. Jason knows that I enjoyed teaching while I was still in the Air Force.
Oh, yeah.
So this substitute certification course that I took this weekend is like one of those not necessarily mandatory things for every school district in New Jersey, but most of them want you to have some sort of course. So the next step would be, if I have to enable Plan B, is to go get sponsored by a school and go through that whole process. So been doing that. And of course, as Bronco Fed alluded to, football season is pretty much upon us. We've been watching, for the NFL watchers, been watching preseason games. As an Eagles fan, I'm trying not to be in full-blown panic mode. But college football is literally around the corner.
Go Michigan. What? What? Nothing.
So Jason, being just a shit starter that he is, and I will respond with "fuck Michigan." What happened was, I believe it was Brady Lovin, if I'm not mistaken, had started a thread last weekend or at some point during this past week. Was his go big blue bullshit. I don't know, some Michigan bullshit. And some college football discussion went back and forth, and I proceeded to piss off Bronco Fett royally because I'm a Penn State fan, so I get a lot of shit thrown my way about the whole Sandusky stuff and all that, and because both Michigan and Penn State are in a Power 5 conferences, as part of the Power 5 conference. Power 5. I didn't make this shit up, Bronco Fett. I didn't do it. I'm just a victim here. It did cause some fairly heated back and forth discussion between the Mountain West Conference representation, which is well represented by Bronco Fed, and if you're not part of our private group and you want to see some really fun stuff with Bronco Fett being on ESPN, dancing with his brother, orange jacket guy. And also there was a guy with a horse head on too at some point.
Hold on, orange jacket guy. I like that. That's going to be his new name.
I think it is his name. I think that's his Twitter name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Orange jacket guy?
I think so.
I thought you were just making that up.
No, we'll wait for the chat to catch up. But anyway, yeah. So some shit was started and talked, and that's the beauty of football season. It is the only thing that I like about fall is football. That's it. Everything. I have my summer sadness, like depression going on. This weekend in New Jersey, it was an absolutely gorgeous weekend. It would have been a perfect weekend to go play golf or kayak or do something outside. My lawn needs to get cut, all this other shit. Instead, I'm doing fucking schoolwork and going to the substitutes teaching class and all this other shit. So it was a weekend wasted, unfortunately, with the very few that we have left. And we're getting ready to have some massive heat wave coming up as well. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah, so summer's finishing with a bang.
Yeah.
but summer's not officially over. Fucking September anyway, so that whole Labor Day thing, that's not the unofficial end of summer, whatever.
I should have bought beer and should have brought in some Oktoberfest beer this week, but
whatever. You know what I'll do? I'll pour someone out on the ground and I'll send you the empty bottles. That way you can just have them around. Irritate me.
There you go.
But that's it. That's it. That's my week in Star Wars. Once football season is fully engaged, yeah, Matthew Jensen, aka Orange Jacket guy. There you go.
Yeah.
See, told you.
That's funny. I thought you were just talking off the cuff there.
No. But if you look at the videos, like you see them, they're doing their dancing. Yeah, it's really fun to watch. And I like Bronco Fett's submission to ESPN to change the N in their logo to the Fett helmet as well. I think that was a good ad. So well done.
Yes.
So now we only have I don't know.
About an hour.
An hour left to talk. Let's talk. Why don't we talk about some Rebels?
All right, yeah, let's talk Rebels. So we're finally getting into season 3. I know we've been talking about it for fucking ever. Life happens, as you plainly see. So here we are. We're finally getting to it. And before we get into the episodes themselves, I wanted to kind of throw out there again the reminder that this stuff is all very closely interwoven with the Thrawn novels, especially when you start getting into season 3 here. And it's funny because I don't know how many people are in the same boat as me that actually read the Thrawn novel before they watched season 3 or 4 of Rebels, because that was my first exposure to Thrawn in the new canon, was the first Thrawn novel and Governor Pryce and everything else. But this season 3 actually started a year before that first Thrawn novel came out. So it's a very weird dynamic with how that all works. But, they were working on it both at the same time. Timothy Zahn had been writing the first Thrawn book for, quite a while, long before season 3 actually debuted. So again, the story group really kind of kept that together. But I kind of wanted to talk about the characters of Thrawn and Governor Pryce and how they're portrayed in season 3 versus maybe how we perceive them in the Thrawn novel.
Okay.
So first of all, with Thrawn himself, the guy, because, I did the audiobooks for both Thrawn and Thrawn Alliances. And the guy who read those books, Mark Thompson, he said that he based his portrayal of Thrawn off of season 3 of Rebels. He tried to match the voice. And goddamn, now after I've actually seen him in Rebels, yeah, it's so close to the way the voice is done and the way the character is portrayed. Again, so seamless, the way that they've done this, the way they've kind of bridged these gaps, and they've just made everything just flow really nicely and just seem like, yeah, they've been planning this way this whole time. The character of Thrawn in season 3 is almost perfect. It's almost exactly the way I imagined Thrawn after reading these books. And even after referencing some of the Legends material, the way he was introduced and everything, they really rely heavily on his whole portrayal of the art, like studying other species artwork and using that against them, using that for a tactical advantage. And we see that a couple of times just in this first half of season 3. The only thing that happened in season 3 that I thought was kind of uncharacteristic of him was when he's walking with some fucking Imperial schmuck officer who's like, oh, we should have just destroyed that piece of art, when they're talking about Hera's little family heirloom. And Thrawn kind of snaps at him. He like grabs him and fucking slams him against the wall. And he's like, you motherfucker. And then he kind of stops himself. But that was the only time I think we've ever seen Thrawn kind of lose his patience. And it was because some guy was talking shit about artwork. That kind of took me out a little bit. But otherwise, I think the way that they've portrayed Thrawn so far up to this point is fucking flawless.
Yeah, having not read or listened to the audiobook, like I only hear Thrawn as the Thrawn from Rebels. So yeah, I don't know. There was that in the first Thrawn book, when you kind of get like warrior Thrawn, when he's like kind of out in the wild surviving and things like that. Yeah. You do get the impression that like he's, yes, as a Chiss, he is like he's very stoic, and he's like, you can just I think one of the things the book constantly described him as there's a lot of it's you don't look at his face and see blank. You look at his face and see that he's thinking about everything at once. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't know how to better put that in
like
order.
his mind is constantly going, like something's always brewing below the surface. Like he's constantly thinking, observing, um, listening. Yeah, he's
So I don't know. I didn't find it that uncharacteristic that he may have snapped a little bit, because I think that what we're leading towards with Thrawn, and even now that we've read Thrawn Alliances, we've reviewed Thrawn Alliances, haven't we?
yeah.
Okay. Potential spoiler alert. But even now we've read Thrawn Alliances, and we know that what Thrawn is working towards isn't necessarily the exact same thing as the Empire is working towards. You know, Thrawn has his own agenda. Yeah. So that constant like battle between dealing with the Empire and their nonsense and the idiocy around him, and and putting up with Price. You know, we're going to talk about Price here in a second. I think he's using her as much as she thinks she's using him. Yeah, and we get that a lot in the Thrawn books. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's got to be even a breaking point for him as a warrior, where he's just like, no, like I'm tired of people not fucking understanding. And I think it may have been deliberate to show us that, you know, hey, this is somebody who has a fight in him. You know, this isn't somebody who's, you know, this isn't some coward. And if you haven't read the Thrawn books and you don't know that what a Chiss warrior looks like, you haven't really seen Thrawn in any other way except for the guy in the white tunic, you know, with his arms folded behind his back and being Grand Admiral-y. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which, if you look at the Thrawn comics, because they did that comic adaptation, which I think a couple of our listeners have gotten and posted in the group. I think Big Lovin's one of them, where you actually see more of the warrior Thrawn in that. He's got like kind of like the long hair when they first capture him. He's like, you know, he's all muscular and fucking kicking the shit out of Imperials. And
right. Trying to think, so, I might. Yeah, I've like I said in the intro, I've watched past a particular point, so I got to make sure that I don't speak to something that's in the next set.
Yeah, don't spoil anything, because and just so everybody knows too, I guess we should have said this at the top. We're going through what is technically episode 10 or 11, depending on which list you look at, but it's the episode titled Visions and Voices. That is the last up to that last one that we're going up to for this portion of the season. So
right, it would have been the last episode in 2016, because in 2017 they had a 2-part episode, The Ghost of Geonosis.
Yeah,
the reason we bring that up is if you're watching it on iTunes, like Jason had said some episode numbers, and I said that doesn't really match up with what I have on iTunes, because iTunes, like the episode numbering was different. I don't know why. I think
it's because episodes 1 and 2 were technically one episode, but some services broke it up into 2 because it was like 45 minutes long. So in some instances, it's broken up into 2 different episodes. Some just clump it into one. So
regardless, we're going up to Visions and Voices is our stopping point. So
up to and including.
Yes.
So now, talking about Governor Price, her character in Rebels, it seems to me to be a lot different than the character that I envisioned in the Thrawn books. Like the Thrawn books, she was kind of more of a victim of the Empire, and she was kind of like using her clout to kind of like get back at the people who fucked her over in the Empire. But she didn't come off as this kind of like vindictive cunt that she is in fucking Rebels.
See, I don't agree. I think that at the end, at what the Price we see at the end, that does get to the point where she is the governor. She is the vindictive bitch that she's portrayed as. And so if that part of it, I don't have a problem with. The part of it that I have a problem with is I pictured her being more attractive.
Yes.
That may be a chauvinist thing. It seems, but whatever it is, it just like the Price that's portrayed in Rebels is like not how I pictured her as being, because she worked like in like when she in the Thrawn book, she was working in with the Senate and going and doing his go-between and kind of as like an administrative secretary type person. And like,
yeah, but she was also at a lot of like high class gatherings. And
it seemed like she was using like some of her like sexuality almost to gain favor with people and things like that. This Price that's in Rebels does not give that off at all. Yeah. This is just some fucking miserable bitch.
Yeah, and she's got to go see she's got to see a hairstylist. Her eyes look like Carrie Fisher's eyes from the holiday special, where one's looking over there and the other one's looking over there.
Yet another reason to fucking hate the holiday special. We can make those fucking comparisons.
Another reason to love it. But anyway, one thing I did notice, beyond her whack ass hairdo and her weird fucking eyes
and face, don't forget the face.
You can tell she's got a rack under that fucking military uniform because her fucking chest is out there. You could tell it's being like pushed in like crazy. Like her uniform is holding on for life. So they drew her with a nice rack, but then the rest of
then they gave up on her fucking face.
Yeah,
for whatever reason. I don't know. Like I said, that was my whole issue. Like, I think it's a continuation of the Governor Price that we see at the end of the novels, but it's just the looking at her, I'm like this. I'm even now, like I've seen her dozens of times now, and every time I see her, I'm like, it's so disappointing.
Yeah, really it's not the one that I pictured. So
no.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to talk about
expectations. I had my expectations up here for that.
Yep. Yeah, always got to manage those. So we can kind of go down the list of episodes and talk a little bit about them. Some of them are more forgettable than others. Like there's 3 episodes of these first 10/11 that I think don't even warrant much discussion at all. But the rest of them are actually all pretty goddamn good. And we start off, like I love the way this season started off, because if you kind of remember the way season 2 ended, Ezra had possession of a holocron, but he was still kind of young, pissant Ezra. But he was, you could tell like maybe there was some dark influence going on there. This season started with Ezra looking older. He was fucking taller. He cut his hair. He seemed stronger with the Force. He seemed more mature. And he came right out of the gate in more of a leadership role as they're attacking some Empire facility. And
when they're getting the Y-Wings, right? That was the mission.
Yeah, later on in that episode, yes, but the very beginning, like the first 30 seconds of it, it was some other attack on something else. Oh, that's when they were breaking out fucking Hondo,
right?
That guy.
God damn it!
But yeah, and the thing was he was doing some cold shit in this first part too, because you could tell he was starting. He wasn't like full dark side, but he had some dark tendencies.
There's some heavy dark side influence, and it's funny because the rationalization was so much like Anakin rationalization.
Yes.
Draw almost perfect parallels to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there was one scene in particular where he fucking mind controlled a guy that was driving an ATST. He made him fucking turn. He was on this platform that just had like nothing below it. And it just like dropped forever. And he had this fucking walker walk towards these troopers and pin them against the edge to where they ended up falling off. And then he just kept walking the fucking walker right off the edge. Basically, he just killed this dude in cold blood. Yep. And he fucking made him kill himself, basically. I'm like, wow, that is some cold shit.
Yeah, that is. And everyone around him is, and it's not like it's something that we just had to extrapolate. Everyone around him is going like, wow, that was ooh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like even Zeb was like, "Damn, dude," you know? And Zeb was always kind of an asshole, but yeah, and that was the first note that I made in here. Like, oh shit, Ezra did some cold-blooded shit.
Yeah, man.
And he's also got a new blaster and a new lightsaber, because if you remember, his hybrid blaster lightsaber got destroyed at the end of last season. Well, now he's got a green lightsaber and just using a regular old blaster. Apparently,
thank God, I hated that hybrid bullshit.
Yeah,
I never liked that.
I didn't dislike it, but whatever. It's gone now. Zeb had a line pretty early on during this first rescue operation with Hondo, where Ezra did something cool, and Zeb looks over at, I think it was Sabine, and he's like, "Oh, that's pretty wizard, eh?" And I'm like, "Wow."
I totally missed that. I totally missed that.
That was within the first 5 minutes, and he's like, "Oh, pretty wizard, eh?" And I'm like, "Wow, is that like a reference to fucking Robot Chicken?"
Holy shit! He's bringing it back.
I hear dogs.
Yeah, dogs. Dogs, 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 dogs.
Yeah, and then we're the whole point of this episode, like you mentioned, was the Y wings. This is kind of where our band of rebels gets a hold of. I think it was a half a dozen Y wings they ended up with by the end, using Hondo and some fucking Ugnaughts who he's now recruited. That's Hondo, and they go and do that. And
Say that again. What were they?
Ugnaughts,
Ugnaughts?
Ugnaughts. I don't know. Whatever.
I always thought it was Ugnaught.
I don't fucking know.
Not Ugnaught.
Sure.
We've had these discussions before. I mean, there's some things that have to be pronounced properly.
Oh, and Twi'lek.
Like
Twi'lek comes up later on, in a much later episode, because it's we determined through Clone Wars that it's probably Twi'lek, but some people still say it Twi'lek. Thrawn calls them Twi'leks, so it's like, what the fuck? There's no goddamn consistency with any of this shit.
There is no consistency with that stuff, especially with that. I would rather whatever call it. Draw me like one of your fucking Twi'lek girls.
Yeah, and Kanan's dealing with being blind and shit now. We're introduced to that new character. What's his name? Bendu, I think is his name. The big fucking, I don't even know what the hell he is. He's actually a pretty cool character. I like the sound of his voice and everything. And he's like a force using creature.
So I thought I have to look this up. So forgive me, but I thought Bendu was a particular, like there's some background to that.
Like from other canon material. If there is, I don't know about it.
The Bendu monks, maybe.
Well, and he references how he's not light side or dark side. He's kind of middle. He's like one of these like gray force users or whatever you want to call them. So, and we get into some more of that later on, but he calls out the Kanan on their planet that they've been on with the bugs and shit. And he basically kind of teaches him how to see through the force because he's blind now because Darth Maul cut his fucking eyeballs. So that's what's going on with Kanan. Then he eventually decides to rejoin our people. They get the A-Wings, blah, 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 blah. Oh, he finds the Sith holocron and he lectures Ezra. And I was kind of pissed about this because by the end, Ezra gives up the Sith holocron and he's kind of back to being a good guy. Like the whole dark side thing is just over. It's just like a one and done thing like that. That was kind of disappointing. I was kind of hoping it was something that they'd thread throughout the season.
Well, I mean, I think that there is still some of it there. I mean, I think he still struggles with it. You're going to come to see later. It's not just something. It's almost like, I think what they want to give the impression of is like, now that this holocron is like, it's kind of like having, I hate to even make this connection, but like having Superman close to kryptonite. You know what I'm saying? Like having the dark force effect. Because he's so close to something with the dark side that it would affect him.
So are we talking like Superman 3, where when Superman gets close to kryptonite, he just turns into a dick? And he like goes and fixes the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and he punches a hole in an oil tanker.
Sure.
And it doesn't kill him.
That's not really where I was going with that, but there's actual Star Wars referencing that I was trying to come up with, but then the fucking Superman reference came out, which I immediately regret.
And he goes and he rapes women on the Statue of Liberty. And
does he really? Oh, I gotta rewatch that movie
in a roundabout way. So anyway,
so real quick, back to the Bendu thing. So according to Wikipedia, the Order of Dai Bendu, also known as the Bendu, was one of many ancient and semi-legendary organizations that studied the Force and Metachlorians in the early hyperspace age, prior to the birth of the Galactic Republic on Coruscant.
Oh, nice.
The order originated in the world of Thape. It arrived on the Andobi Mountains and the snowy planet of Endo Prime. Blah, 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 blah. It goes through a whole shit. But it's like...
but that's all legends at this point, too.
It doesn't say legends. It, usually it has like right across... Oh, and you know what? It does say legends over here in the corner.
And Bronco Fett is saying that Bendu is one of the wills. If you,
I think it's all connected, because what this page is basically talking about is that like the Bendu, these other beings ultimately encountered the Bendu, and they called themselves the Jedi, and that was the beginning of the Jedi Order.
Okay.
So,
all right. Well,
anyway,
more research will be done before
but I know I've heard Bendu before.
Yeah.
When I was watching this episode, I'm like, Bendu. That's not something. That's a reference to something else. It may not. Look. For me, some of the legend shit still creeps into what's canon, what's not.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I know that Bendu was definitely a thing.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to keep moving because we're pressed for time.
Have we started episode 1 yet? Wait,
that was episode 1.
All right, fair enough.
They ended up with Y-wings basically. So didn't they find a bunch of A-wings in one of the previous seasons, and now they're bringing in Y-wings? So they're kind of showing us like how the Rebel Alliance got all their fucking ships, I guess. And you can tell they really are desperate. They're just scavenging whatever fucking munitions, fucking weapons, fucking ships, all that stuff. It's just whatever they can find. And
every mission that in 2 seasons and now in the season 3 of Rebels, every single mission is involved. If it hasn't been some sort of rescue effort, it's been supply gathering.
Yeah.
In some form or fashion, they're gathering supplies, whether it's proton torpedoes, whether it's fucking, there's in one episode, they're fucking encounter a goddamn shield generator, so like fuck, grab the fucking core out of that shield generator, and like it's any type of scavenging that they can fucking do,
which I mean it makes sense. It's
so what also makes it even more interesting is during this time frame, this is one group of rebels. Like there's got to be other groups of rebels that are doing this, right? So the ability to expand on this particular time frame in the canon is almost infinite if you think about it. Based on how many rebel organizations are out there.
Right, because these guys, our rebels, are just one cell of who knows how many.
And we know, we're going to see in a couple episodes when they're dealing directly with Senator Organa and doing different stuff. There's definitely more going on than what's just what our little band of rebels are doing right here.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get to the next one.
I'm sorry. Kathleen Martin in the chat is just apparently throwing up. I guess she does not like our content. So moving on to the second episode.
Why is her head exploding? Oh, because she doesn't understand what this is the part of the podcast that she doesn't enjoy. The Star Wars part.
Yeah, when we actually start talking about the Star Wars stuff, she tunes out. So episode 2, things got a little more interesting as Darth Maul comes back. He's back, and he wants both the Sith holocron and the Jedi holocron. Long story short, he takes most of the crew captive except for Ezra and Kanan. They have to go get the holocrons, come back to Maul, and Maul's big plan is he wants to merge a Jedi holocron with a Sith holocron, which apparently gives you like these crazy powers to see visions and gain knowledge, and which is I'd never heard of this in any Star Wars canon, Legends or current canon, but apparently that's how it works now. You combine a Sith and a Jedi holocron, and they give you special powers.
Maybe particular holocrons too. It may not like. Anyway, that's a whole other discussion with like how the holocrons originated, and what we think about from Old Republic stuff, and who put the holocrons together and things like that. They may all had different purposes.
Sure. Yeah. And ultimately, it comes down to Maul and Ezra putting the 2 holocrons together, and they were told by Bendu that, you'll be able to see whatever you want. Like they each want a specific piece of knowledge, and if they merge the holocrons, they'll get to see what it is that they want. We know Ezra just says he wants to know how to destroy the Sith. He wants to destroy the Sith, whereas Maul doesn't really tell us what he wants. But it's just something that's eluding him.
But
oh, we know what it is.
Well, you know, watching that episode what it is.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I'm just saying, I'm setting it up. I'm getting to the climax, so to speak. So they whatever. Fuck you. Then you should do this part then. So
okay, go ahead. You're doing famously.
They start having their visions. Ezra is like, show me how to destroy the Sith, and Maul's like, show me where he is. And then Ezra sees twin suns, and some bullshit happens. Holocrons explode. They don't get to finish their vision, but Maul's seen enough where he's like, "Oh, he's still alive," and he bolts out of there. And Ezra's like, "Yes, it showed me that the secret to destroying the Sith has something to do with twin sons," which obviously is references to probably Luke, and we know Maul's looking for Obi-Wan. Right. So this was Maul's validation that Obi-Wan Kenobi is still alive. And we go back to this vision later on in this season,
right?
Before the end,
alive and on Tatooine, because that's where his initial encounter with Obi-Wan was.
Right, but we don't actually find out that piece of information until a little bit later on in the season. But that was that episode 2 in a nutshell. Pretty good episode overall. Really, it just came down to that climax point where they both put the holocrons together, had their visions, and kind of started putting things in motion there. Now, here's the third episode, Dave's favorite episode.
Oh, man.
Do you want to speak to this one a little bit?
So this one's called The Antilles Extraction, and I'm not really good with breaking down the episodes like Jason is. So all I can say is, like, what I get out of this episode is TIE fighters, more TIE fighters, TIE Fighter Academy, Sabine in a fucking TIE Fighter pilot fucking uniform. You get to see what the TIE Fighter Academy like emblem looks like, which is different than the Empire symbol, which I must have in some form or fashion.
I did not notice that.
Did I mention the TIE fighters and the TIE fighter pilots? And oh, by the way, this is where we meet Wedge.
Yes.
So this is how Wedge becomes part of the rebellion.
Right.
And this episode.
I guess I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I should have known this, but I didn't. I thought Wedge, because Wedge's full name is Wedge Antilles.
Right.
I assumed that he was the son of Captain Antilles, who was the guy on Leia's ship who Vader fucking chokes and fucking kills at the very beginning of New Hope. He's also allegedly the same character that handed the plans to Leia at the very end of Rogue One. And, you know, C-3PO, our last master, was Captain Antilles. I just assumed Wedge Antilles was related to him. Apparently not. Apparently Antilles in the Star Wars universe is like Smith here on Earth. So that's just, everybody shares that same last name. But yeah, no relation whatsoever. Because when I saw this episode of Rebels, I'm like, wait a minute, I thought Wedge's dad was part of the rebellion already. What the fuck? And no relation. So
sometimes George just ran out of creativity, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? Fuck it.
Did I use the last name Antilles already? I don't think I did. Fuck it.
I don't think
Wedge
so.
Antilles.
Like,
oh, shit, I did. He was Captain Antilles. Fuck, that's right. So, anyway. But yeah, that was the big part of that was Sabine infiltrated the TIE Fighter Academy, which I knew you would fucking love.
Oh, my God, dude.
TIE Fighter nonsense. And Wedge and Hobby, don't forget. Hobby, who was Luke's fucking gunner on Hoth, right? Yes, Hobby? Yes? Nod your head, yes? Somebody in the chat help me out. Jesus Christ. Your stunned silence is very reassuring.
I don't.
Anyway, well, the character of Hobby did escape with Wedge in this episode of Rebels. That is a fact. And I'm pretty sure that's the same guy that was Luke's gunner on Hoth who eventually met his demise.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
$2 on the fucking mixer right now that's the same character.
All right. I'm looking it up right now. I see your $2. I'm looking it up.
Get my Han money back. So anyway, while you're looking that up, we will carry on to one other thing I wanted to mention in episode 3 is now we have a new Fulcrum. As you know, Fulcrum used to be Ahsoka's code name. She was like an informant.
Dak.
Well then wait, no, Hobby was another fucking pilot on Hoth. Fuck. Damn it. I knew Hobby was on Hoth though. Motherfucker. Anyway, I just won't buy a taco this week. I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, there's a new Fulcrum. We found out that there's somebody feeding information to the rebels. We find out who that is a little bit later on. But in episode 3, Fulcrum started feeding information to the rebels. Uh, moving on to episode 4, that was Hera's Heroes. We go back to Twi'lek land, also known as. Hold on, I've got it here.
Ryloth?
Ryloth, yes. I didn't find anything too fantastic about this episode beyond Thrawn and his art analysis. This is when Hera's family has this fucking little trinket thing that, like, every generation adds a new thing to do. Thrawn knew that. He figured out that Hera was Hera in disguise, and because he's a smart motherfucker like that.
Yeah, and the art, it looks like basically almost like a doll with Leiku, and it's just their family history is on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I found that to be interesting. I just found it to be interesting. I'm not.
Yeah, and this was the episode where Thrawn referred to them as Twi'leks, and when he snapped at that dude for pissing on the Twi'leks artwork. So, but other than that, nothing really big on the overall narrative beyond Thrawn's presence and him constantly following our rebels and them always getting away. Which, oh, by the way, I think it was in episode 1, he fucking let them escape. Like, they kind of had them not really trapped, but they were in a space battle, and he's like, let them go. This is not part of my grand plan. It's like, what? I don't buy that. I thought that was kind of bullshit. But we'll see. I haven't seen his plan come to fruition yet.
That's what it's one of those where Thrawn has his own plan. And I think they make it more and more obvious as they kind of move it along. It's like, yeah, he's the Grand Admiral, and these things are happening. But we have the benefit of knowing that from the books how much of a planner and like how good a military mind he is.
Yeah,
really bad with words today. But
it's because we haven't done this in a while. That's why.
But if you're just watching Rebels just to see who Thrawn is and you've never been introduced to him before, I think this is kind of leaning us into that a little bit more. We benefit from having more knowledge about the character.
Yeah. And Scott, Scott knows Hobby was Luke's wingman in the Battle of Hoth. So I think I should get half credit for that.
Nope.
All right.
I don't know. Ask them. Do you think that Jason should get half credit for being fully wrong?
I wasn't fully wrong. I mentioned Hoth. I mentioned he was with Luke. I was just mistaken the gunner for his wingman. Oh no. Moving on to the next episode. This one is titled The Last Battle. It was actually kind of a neat episode. This was another reference to the Clone Wars, where Rex is a big part of this. He gets in his old fucking clone trooper armor. You can see his fucking fat rolls leaning out the side. Mm-hmm. And they come across a battle droid group that are still active from the Clone Wars. And they have one of those like strategy droids. I can't remember what the fuck they called them.
I can't either.
Yeah. But and he captures our band of heroes, and he's like, we're going to reenact one last battle from the Clone Wars. So it's this whole throwback to where it's like Rex is the clone trooper, he's got Kanan and Ezra as the Jedi and the apprentice, and then you got all the battle droids, and they fight each other, and it was kind of funny. But then the Empire comes, and then our two sides, the battle droids and the fucking clones, form an alliance and attack the Empire, which I thought was kind of a neat cross-generational sort of battle thing going on. But overall, again, just sort of a side story that doesn't push our overall narrative forward at all. Just some really neat shit that happened in there. A lot of references to the Clone Wars.
This is one of the few episodes this season I really didn't care for. And honestly, the reason is there's some dialogue with, I don't know, just some dialogue in there, and then the way that the battle droids are weakened, like it's whatever. It is. I just didn't think that. I didn't find it necessary. You know, we don't. There again. It did not advance the plot at all. I mean, was it as bad as a Padme episode? No, but it still it didn't advance the plot at all. So
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah, and see, I felt that way about the next episode, the Imperial Super Commandos. That's another Mandalorian episode, and you'd think an episode about the Mandalorians would be pretty badass. This one I found to be pretty boring. Beyond the cool Mandalorian stormtroopers, beyond the design of their outfits, I didn't find this episode to be very engaging at all. It was centered around Hera and that fucking who's that Mando guy that they captured? Starts with an F.
Fen Rao.
Fen Rao, yeah. Like they captured him last season. He told his Mandalorians, "Hey, let them through and use our space as fucking safe passage." And he's still with them as their captive. And they go back to the Mandalore. Bunch of bullshit happens. Really not that exciting. Another side story.
Yeah, but it builds on the plot.
A little bit. I mean,
because when you get to, no, I'm getting too far. Never mind. Sorry. Well, it does build on a plot.
Okay.
It does build on a plot.
All right, because at the end of this, the one important thing that does happen is Fen Rao now voluntarily joins the Rebel Squad. So we're just constantly picking up members as we go along. Right. Because like that droid that we picked up last season, the AP5, he makes a couple of appearances this season. In fact, I think he appears in the next episode, which was Iron Squadron. Mm-hmm. Oh God, this fucking episode. I knew this one was going to be bad when it started off with 3 fucking emo teenagers in charge of a fucking ship, and they're being a bunch of annoying little shitheads. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to hate this episode, and I did. Yeah, I mean, the only redeemable part about that episode, I think, was
it's funny.
I think Thrawn came back at one point at the end, and I'm like, yeah, that was pretty much it. Like, I have 2 lines of notes for that episode.
Yeah, it was filler. It was humanizing the admiral. The what's his name?
Oh, Callus.
Yeah, no, not Callus. The admiral for the rebellion that they report to.
Oh, yeah. Because that was his nephew.
Yeah, exactly. So it like showed some of that homeworld stuff, and if anything, maybe you can make allusions to how the Empire was taking over certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
But again, showing you that a small band, attacking, the Empire was something that was useful from a tactics perspective, I guess. Like it's showing that the Empire's, if anything, the Empire's weakness is that they don't see a small force as being a threat.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm reaching.
Right. Yeah. Well, there was one thing that I did write down. Now I looked at my notes. The ship that they were flying, the Iron Squadron, was a YT 2400 freighter. Now that played a huge role back in Legends material. That was what's his name, Dash Rendar's ship, and I think it made a couple of appearances throughout Legends material. The design is very familiar. It's the YT 2400, and I recognized it as soon as the episode started. I'm like, I know that fucking ship, and I looked it up, and that's what it was. So,
oh, interesting. You could tell it was definitely Corellian built, like a YT something. It familiar, pieces of the Millennium Falcon type.
Mm-hmm. Even on the inside too, like the inside corridors were designed very similar. Yeah. So, but yeah, otherwise, very forgettable episode. I don't foresee myself ever watching it again for the rest of my life. The next episode was the Win Kethu job, and our buddy Hondo is back. It's like, oh God, Hondo again. This was yet another episode that I just was like, I don't really care, honestly. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Hondo comes back. They steal some fucking explosives from a ship that's trapped in a fucking space storm. Yeah.
I don't really have much for it either. I thought there was some cool scenes like in the escape and stuff like that. There was like some, like it wasn't
visually. It looks
good.
Like
visually. It was visually. It was a stimulating episode, but really did nothing for me as far as the plot goes. It wasn't like like, oh wow, we find this out or find that out. It was like there was enough going on. It was an exciting episode, but really wasn't like very relevant.
Yeah. And one thing I will throw in there, you mentioned earlier in the episode, like how we were both aviators back in the day. When they're going, when this ship is like right on the top of this storm and they go in and they dock with it and they go onto the ship and like everything's smooth, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, they would be in so much fucking turbulence right now. They'd be getting the shit kicked out of them. Yeah. There's no way it would be that smooth of a fucking ride.
Yeah, because we've been on the edges of those storms and,
yes.
and that fucking ever-loving shit kicked out of us.
Yeah. Were you on the... No, you weren't on the one where we got bounced off the ceiling over over New Guinea. Oh, yeah, that was great. Good times.
I was not. Yeah, thanks. I know that was a snetty...
yeah.
It was a snetty thing.
Yeah,
Snetty's got me killed a couple times.
Yeah. Anyway, our old war stories.
Yeah.
So things start picking up in the next episode where we go to episode 10, An Inside Man. And it's going to first of all, we go back to Lothal. I think this is the first time this season we've gone back to Lothal, which is where a majority of the first and second seasons took place. So why are you making that face?
I'm thinking about something. Proceed.
Yeah. So they meet up with that dude who was the former governor of Lothal before Price took over. What the fuck is his name? Ryder. And they meet up with him. They're talking about sabotaging Imperial shit. They sneak into a factory where they've been sabotaging vehicles and shit that the Empire is building. And again, we get a mention of Fulcrum. And Thrawn shows up, finds out that there's rebels there. And as Kanan, I think it's Kanan and Ezra. Yeah, Kanan and Ezra, as they're trying to escape, they fucking bump into Callus. And he's like, you two, come with me. He grabs and throws them in an elevator. And he's like, I'm Fulcrum. If you remember, going back to last season, Agent Callus had this really emotional arc with Zeb when they were trapped together on the ice planet. And when we last saw him in season 2, he was like in his room all by himself, just kind of like, hands in his face in his hands and just kind of like thinking about like, what the fuck have I done with my life kind of thing. And now come to find out he is the informant. He is now on the rebel side, which I thought was kind of cool. Even though I kind of predicted it when they said there was a new Fulcrum, I'm like, it's probably Callus. Well, right. It was revealed here. But I like that. I like that character arc that he had. And I really appreciate the storytelling that they're doing here. But by the end of this episode, Thrawn figures out that they got away and they had help from the inside. And he fucking looks straight at Callus and he's like, and we will find out who this spy is that let them out, won't we, Agent Callus? And yeah, it was some tension there between Thrawn and Callus. As you can tell, Thrawn probably knows it was him at this point.
Right.
So, yeah, we kind of leave on that semi-cliffhanger with that. And that was the next to last episode that we're going to talk about. The final one is that Visions and Voices, and this is the return once again of Darth Maul. So Ezra starts having some weird fucking crazy flashes of Darth Maul everywhere. Eventually, Maul actually shows up for real, and he wants to finish his vision that he had with Ezra back in episode 2, where they started to see some shit, but they weren't 100% sure what they were seeing. Long story short, they go back to Dathomir, which is Maul's homeworld, which I don't know anything about the history of this. It sounds like this is more shit that went down in the Clone Wars, because a lot of stuff in a lot of these first 10 episodes, they made allusions to what I think is shit that went down in the Clone Wars. Maul at one point in one of the early episodes mentioned to Sabine that, yeah, I used to rule the Mandalorians. Do you remember? I was a good ruler. And she's like, yeah. I'm like, when the fuck did that happen?
Right.
So, and then now he's talking about how Dathomir has been completely decimated. Like he's the last survivor of Dathomir. So I'm like, are there no more fucking Zabraks left? Like, what the fuck happened? So that's, again, something I'm assuming that they're going to talk about in either Clone Wars or some other canon material. I know Maul's also got a comic series out there. We may have to look at some point.
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, I know he does.
I'm trying to think if I have it.
Okay.
That was an answer to my internal question of, do I have it? And the answer is maybe.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, in this, they use some fucking like witchcraft magic-y shit to merge minds to finish their little force vision that they had back in episode 2. eventually happens with some whole possessions and shit with like how they take over Kanan and Sabine's body.
Well, it was the we hear about these witches
Yes.
in where do we hear about the witches?
Nothing that I've seen or heard.
Oh no, it's definitely I've heard of these witches before. Fuck.
Yeah.
Damn it. I should have thought about that. Anyway, keep going. The Night Sisters. There was definitely something else.
Yeah, and Maul talks about them when they get to the planet, how they sort of were part of why the fucking Zabrix got wiped out. I don't know. It's something we're gonna have to explore in later episodes.
Fucking Night Sisters.
But the big thing is that they finished their visions, and now Maul knows where Kenobi is. He sees that he was on that Twin Suns planet that Ezra had seen. So he mentions, where it all began is where Obi-Wan is. Because if you remember back to episode 1,
Ventress. Sorry. Ventress interacts with the Night Sisters.
Okay. I believe you.
You have to read that book.
It's like Dark Apprentice or something like that.
Yeah. I can't see it. It may not be on my shelf. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. But yeah, it is part of the canon where these Night Sisters were Ventress goes and gets healed by the Night Sisters. That's in that whole other book.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, but anyway, after they have this vision, Ezra goes, "Oh, he's still alive. Obi-Wan Kenobi is still alive." And now my thought is, how does Ezra know who Obi-Wan is? I don't think we've talked about him at all in Rebels. So
I'm pretty sure that we saw Obi-Wan early in Rebels with the message. Because I thought Ezra sees the message.
Right, because in the holocron.
Right. Kanan shows Ezra the message that Obi-Wan sent, telling the Jedi not to return to the temple.
Okay, that makes sense. Because, I'm watching this and I'm like, how the fuck does Ezra know who Obi-Wan is? Did they have some sort of interaction that we haven't been exposed to yet? But, okay, that makes sense. So
my bad, Bronco Fett, because Bronco Fett had come up with Ventress before I had my explosion. So
yeah. So any thoughts on this last episode where we get the revelation now that Maul knows where Obi-Wan is and now he's on him, and Ezra knows where Obi-Wan is? Well, Ezra doesn't exactly know. He just saw Twin Suns and Desert Planet. He doesn't realize that it's Tatooine specifically.
Right. Well, I think it's that giving us that illusion to, at some point you're going to see the Maul's interaction with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
One way or the other at some point during the season.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, having watched up to episode 17, it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But
that could be like a season finale kind of deal.
I believe it was actually. There's like a 2-parter at the end of the season, but it does. Anyway, I don't want to. Well, it gives you something to look forward to, knowing that it.
But that's
going to get there.
That being said, we've only got 6 minutes left for our timer, so we got to wrap this up. So, thoughts on the first half of season 3 of Rebels generally, Dave? What do you got?
I enjoyed it. I look forward to watching every single episode. Not everyone was the best one ever, but I'd said it to you, and I think you would agree with me that it was one of those where I just was watching it one after the other.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a point where, again, everyone's on the chat yelling at us for not finishing Clone Wars. We will. I know we need to watch Clone Wars, but the reality is, like, with the Clone Wars, you'd watch 3-4 episodes of it, and they would be stinkers. And so Rebels is not Rebels right now. It's building. It's
and it's good. Like even the episodes that we kind of like brushed off today, they're still watchable. They're like, they don't make you want to like go into the bathroom and open up some arteries in the bathtub, unlike some Clone Wars episodes. But they're still watchable. They're still good visuals, and it's still fucking Star Wars.
Yeah, and I get it. The Clone Wars obviously gets better too, and we've had conversations and we've talked about in the chat about potentially jumping a season to get to where Clone Wars really starts becoming relevant. Yeah, and whatever, and we'll get there for sure, because we know we're missing out. we know we're missing out. And we're going to appreciate Clone Wars that much more because now we're going to be able to relate all these things, and it'll give us a reason to really watch it. So, and we just won't be, it won't be surprises to us. And I'm sure there still will be some surprises, but overall, definitely, I'm looking forward to finishing season 3. I'm even more looking forward to now getting you to the point where we can watch season 4.
Yes. And I think, we might as well just take advantage of this time that we have now and pound through it. Cause I was going to suggest at the end of this episode that for next week, we just finish season 3. We go right into the rest of this season and just boom, knock it out, then take a break for a couple weeks in between, maybe do some comics, talk about a book, something. But I think for this week and next week, we should finish season 3 and just get that out of the way.
Sure. I don't have a problem with that. I'm almost done it anyway. So it's just a matter of me finishing out the last few episodes and trying to make sure I'm structuring my schoolwork in such a way that I'm not getting bound up.
Yeah, and I'm kind of in the same boat too. It's the school down here is a lot more intense than the Mississippi one, so I have to find that balance as well. But anyway, I'm glad we finally got to do this.
Yeah, man.
It feels like it's been for fucking ever.
Yes. And I enjoyed our fireside chat. There with Jason and.
Well, it was either that or hold on. Let me see if I can get the effect back. See now it actually looks normal as opposed to earlier when I was without that light. I looked like I was a fucking member of the Blue Man Group. So
we'll get the lighting improved for next episode.
Yeah.
And for the audio audience, you're not going to give a shit.
Yeah, but go check out YouTube anyway and subscribe and watch our videos and all that stuff.
And by next episode, yes, there will be fair warning, everyone. Some of this sidebarring that's going to be happening about college football.
Oh, geez. Yep.
It's football season. So I know at the end of last year, it was like, hey, here's a football podcast with a little bit of Star Wars at the end of it. We're not going to be able to dominate it like previously because we only have 90 minutes per episode.
Yeah.
But definitely there's going to be some football jousting. Trust me.
Yeah.
It's going to be happening.
If it helps, though, I'm not really a college football person, so I won't be contributing much. So that'll help.
So you shouldn't open your fucking mouth and say shit like "Go Michigan" or "Go Big Blue" or anything like that. You can go ahead. You know what? You want to support a team? Go ahead and support the Bronco Fets, Boise State. That is I fully encourage it. Go Broncos, but stay the fuck away from Michigan, Ohio State, anything like that, just to piss me off. Because I'll go to fucking Texas. I'll strangle you with that goddamn tank top.
Well, I mean,
it's college fucking football now. This is serious shit.
Well, it's like I think I was saying on the Facebook group that Jim Harbaugh is the coach at Michigan now. He was my former 49ers coach. I loved him when he was our coach. I thought he was great. He's kind of an asshole, but I think he's a fantastic coach. And now he's with Michigan, so I'm like, oh, maybe I'll throw some support behind them. Just
go fuck yourself, Jason.
And this has been the All Things Star Wars podcast, episode 70. We hope you all enjoyed it. But no, Dave, it's been great to actually be back into the flow. Hopefully it'll flow even better next week once we kick some of the rust off. Until then, thanks to everybody who's been in the chat. Thanks to everybody who's downloaded the episodes. Hit us up on all of our social media. And until next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. Now what do I click?